The Midnight Shift at McDonald's, a true horror story. Introduction. Late-night shifts at McDonald's often come with their own challenges: rowdy customers, sleepy co-workers, and the monotony of cleaning fryers. But for Jenna, a young college student working to pay her bills, her Thursday night shift was anything but ordinary. The eerie stillness of the restaurant, a mysterious new manager, and strange noises from the play area set the stage for a night she would never forget. Part 1. The Midnight Routine. Jenna checked her watch. 11:45 p.m. The clock on the register blinked in sync with the hum of the soda machines. It was her third night working the midnight to 6 a.m. shift, and while she appreciated the quiet, there was something unsettling about the restaurant at night. McDonald's had always felt safe during the day, filled with the sounds of sizzling grills and cheerful chatter. But at night, the place transformed. Shadows danced on the walls, the hum of machinery felt too loud, and every creak made Jenna's heart race. Her coworker, Mike, leaned against the counter, scrolling through his phone. He was supposed to be mopping the floors, but Jenna didn't care. At least she wasn't alone. "Slow night, huh?" Mike said, breaking the silence. "Yeah," Jenna replied, wiping down the counter for the third time. "I kinda like it, though. No screaming kids or Karen complaints." Mike chuckled. "True, but it's too quiet, you know? Like, eerie quiet." Before Jenna could respond, the door chimed. She turned to see a man in a dark hoodie entering. He moved silently, his face obscured by the hood. Jenna instinctively felt a chill, but forced a polite smile. "Welcome to McDonald's. What can I get for you?" she asked. The man didn't respond. Instead, he pointed to the menu board. His finger lingered on the McFlurry section. "We're out of McFlurries," Mike said, not bothering to look up from his phone. The man dropped his arm, his face still hidden. He turned and walked toward the play area. Sir?" Jenna called. "That section's closed at night." The man didn't stop. Mike sighed, finally putting his phone away. "Great, now we have to deal with a weirdo." "Should we call someone?" Jenna whispered. "Nah," Mike said, grabbing a flashlight. "I'll scare him off. Be right back." Jenna watched as Mike followed the man into the play area. Moments later, the lights flickered, and a low, guttural sound echoed through the restaurant. Part 2. The play area's secret. Jenna stood frozen by the counter, gripping the edge until her knuckles turned white. The flickering lights sent long shadows darting across the walls, making the play area seem more sinister than it had ever been in the daylight. "Mike!" she called out, her voice trembling. There was no response. The restaurant fell silent, save for the faint buzz of the fluorescent lights. Jenna grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight, hesitating before stepping toward the play area. "Mike, this isn't funny," she said, trying to sound braver than she felt. The play area, once a cheerful maze of colorful slides and climbing tubes, now looked like a labyrinth of nightmares. Her flashlight caught glimpses of scuffed plastic and peeling stickers. Something about the air felt heavy, as though it were pressing down on her chest. She climbed over the chain blocking the entrance and peered inside. The slide at the center loomed like the gaping mouth of a beast. "Mike?" she whispered again. Suddenly, she heard a faint scratching sound. It was coming from the far corner, near the ball pit. Jenna approached slowly, her heart pounding in her ears. Her flashlight beam fell on a trap door in the floor, partially hidden beneath the balls. It was slightly ajar, revealing a dark, narrow staircase leading down. "What the hell is this?" Jenna muttered. She hesitated, her mind racing. Should she go down? Should she call the police? Before she could decide, a loud crash echoed from below, followed by a scream she recognized as Mike's. Part 3. Descent into darkness. Jenna's hands shook as she gripped the edges of the trapdoor. The darkness below seemed to swallow the light from her flashlight, but she had no choice. She couldn't leave Mike. Hang on, Mike, I'm coming! She descended the stairs, each step creaking ominously beneath her weight. The air grew colder, and an acrid smell filled her nostrils, making her gag. At the bottom, she found herself in a dimly lit tunnel. The walls were made of cracked concrete, and the floor was sticky with some unidentifiable substance. "Mike?" she called out, her voice echoing down the passage. A faint groan answered her. She followed the sound, her flashlight revealing smears of red along the walls. The tunnel twisted and turned, leading her deeper into the unknown. Finally, she found Mike. He was slumped against the wall, his face pale and drenched in sweat. Blood trickled from a gash on his forehead. "Jenna," he croaked. "What happened? Are you okay?" she asked, kneeling beside him. Mike pointed weakly down the tunnel. "It's not human. Don't let it get you." Before Jenna could ask what he meant, a low growl echoed from the darkness ahead. Part 4, The Entity. Jenna barely had time to process Mike's cryptic warning before the growl intensified, echoing through the tunnel like thunder. Her flashlight flickered, casting distorted shadows on the walls. "Mike, we have to go," she hissed, tugging at his arm. He shook his head weakly. "It's too late for me. Just run." "No, I'm not leaving you," Jenna said, her voice trembling. Before she could argue further, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was hunched and grotesque, with sinewy limbs that seemed to stretch unnaturally long. Its face was a nightmare, a mass of sharp teeth and hollow glowing eyes that pierced through the shadows. Jenna froze, her breath caught in her throat. The creature tilted its head, studying her like a predator sizing up its prey. "Run," Mike whispered again, his voice barely audible. The creature lunged. Jenna screamed, pulling Mike to his feet with all her strength. Adrenaline surged through her as she half-dragged, half-carried him down the tunnel, the creature's guttural growls growing louder behind them. Her flashlight flickered wildly, but she caught sight of a rusted metal door ahead. Desperation fueled her as she shoved it open and pushed Mike inside. She slammed the door shut just as the creature's claws scraped against it, sending a deafening screech through the air. Part 5. The Truth Beneath McDonald's. The room they stumbled into was small and cluttered, filled with old papers, broken furniture, and strange symbols scrawled on the walls. A single dim bulb hung from the ceiling, casting a sickly yellow light. "What is this place?" Jenna murmured, her eyes scanning the room. Mike coughed weakly, leaning against the wall. "Some kind of storage. But those symbols—" Jenna moved closer to the wall, inspecting the strange markings. They looked ancient, etched into the concrete with something sharp. Among them were faded photographs pinned to the wall, images of smiling children, birthday parties, and employees in McDonald's uniforms. But as Jenna looked closer, she noticed something chilling. The children and employees in the photos were surrounded by shadows, blurry, monstrous shapes lurking just out of focus. "This place, it's been here for years," she whispered, her stomach turning. Mike nodded weakly. "I've heard rumors about this McDonald's, people disappearing, employees quitting after seeing things. I thought it was just urban legend." "Apparently not," Jenna said, her voice shaking. The creature's growls echoed from beyond the door, snapping her back to reality. They weren't safe yet. Jenna spotted a set of old blueprints on a table. She unfurled them, her hands trembling. The plans showed the McDonald's building, but beneath it was a network of tunnels and rooms. "This wasn't just a restaurant," Jenna said. "It's something else. A cover for whatever this is." Mike groaned, his breathing shallow. "We need to get out of here." But Jenna's eyes lingered on one marked location on the blueprint. Feeding chamber. Part 6. The feeding chamber. Jenna makes the horrifying decision to confront the entity in its lair. discovering the truth about its origins and the sacrifices made by the McDonald's franchise to keep it contained. Part 6. The Feeding Chamber. Jenna's heart raced as she studied the blueprint. The feeding chamber was marked just a short distance from their current location, but the path was through the same tunnel the creature now prowled. Mike's shallow breathing pulled her attention back to him. He was fading fast, his injury worse than she'd realized. "Jenna, you can't fight that thing," he muttered weakly. "I'm not planning to fight it," she replied, her voice firm despite the fear clawing at her chest. "But we need to understand what we're dealing with. If this thing has a weakness, I'll find it." Mike tried to protest, but Jenna was already moving. She tore a piece of fabric from her uniform and tied it tightly around his head wound to slow the bleeding. "Stay here. Lock the door behind me," she said. "You're crazy," Mike whispered. "Maybe," Jenna said, forcing a grim smile. "But if we don't stop this thing, it'll come for us, and everyone else who steps into that restaurant." Before he could argue further, Jenna slipped through the door and back into the dark, oppressive tunnel. The air grew colder as she moved toward the feeding chamber. The growls of the creature echoed faintly, but she pressed on, gripping the flashlight like a weapon. The walls were slick with a strange black substance that oozed down to the floor. Finally, she reached another door. This one was heavier, its surface etched with more of the strange symbols she'd seen earlier. Jenna pushed it open, her flashlight revealing the horrors within. The chamber was vast, its ceiling disappearing into darkness. In the center was a pit, filled with a writhing, churning mass of the same black substance from the walls. The creature stood at the edge, its grotesque form illuminated by faint, glowing veins running through the pit. But what truly caught Jenna's attention were the remnants of past victims scattered around the room. Clothes, shoes, and even toys, all eerily untouched by time. Jenna's stomach turned. This wasn't just a monster, it was a predator, and this chamber was its feeding ground. Her flashlight flickered, and the creature turned. Its hollow eyes locked onto her, and it let out an ear-piercing screech that shook the walls. Part 7. The Bargain. Jenna stumbled back, her mind racing. She couldn't outrun it, and she had nothing to fight with. Her eyes darted to the symbols etched on the walls. "Symbols. They're keeping it contained," she muttered to herself. The creature lunged, but as it crossed one of the glowing veins on the floor, it recoiled violently, snarling in frustration. "Boundaries," Jenna realized. She scanned the chamber, spotting a broken symbol near the pit. The line connecting the markings had been deliberately scratched out. The pieces clicked into place. Someone had broken the containment, letting the creature roam. But why? Jenna's thoughts were interrupted as the creature lunged again, this time getting closer. She dodged, nearly slipping into the pit. "Think, Jenna, think!" Her flashlight caught a glint of something metallic near the broken symbol. She darted toward it, grabbing what looked like an old, rusted carving tool. Part 8. Sealing the Darkness. Jenna repairs the broken symbol while the creature tries to stop her. She narrowly succeeds, but not without great sacrifice. Moral: some doors are meant to remain closed, and some truths are better left undiscovered. Curiosity and bravery can save lives, but only when guided by caution and respect for forces beyond human understanding. When faced with darkness, it's often the light of resolve and sacrifice that prevails, even at great personal cost.